Okay, so I said we're going to start with our questions. First question. It is a widespread custom to dress up, masquerade.
Mm-hmm.
Why? Like, it's not, this is rooted in Kodesh. It's not, people didn't just make it up. There must be a deep reason for masquerading on Purim. And we want to understand what that is all about.
Right.
Second question. The holiest day of the year, what is that? The holiest day of the year.
Yom Kippur.
Yom Kippur.
Yeah.
Yom Kippurim.
Yeah.
In the Torah, Yom HaKippurim. Kippurim, we're told, is Kippurim. It's so holy that it is like Purim. Purim, the day that everybody drinks and there's a mitzvah to get drunk, is that even holier than Yom Kippur, the day that we fast and we're like angels, we're all dressed in white? What's going on? Okay, you like that question?
I love it.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. What's so great about Purim that we're told that it's even, that Yom Kippur is compared to the greatness of Purim? Okay, next question. We know that Purim and Chanukah are midrabanan, meaning that it's not a mitzvah explicit in the Torah shebichtav. As a matter of fact, it doesn't have kedushas hayom. It's not a sanctified day like the Chagim are. We're allowed to drive a car. We're allowed to turn on the light. We're allowed to cook. So, it is a Chag midrabanan from our sages. And we know that we find in the Gemara, it says that there are hints to these days in the Torah Shebechsav. What is the hint to Haman? Min haTorah minayin? Hamin ha'etz. That is a pasuk from the first parsha in the Torah, the first story in the Torah about Gan Eden. Haman? Gan Eden? Hamin ha'etz, which tree are we talking about there? Did you partake from the tree? Which tree? Is the tree of knowledge. Two trees in Gan Eden, the Eitz HaChaim and the Eitz HaDa'at, and Adam HaRishon was warned not to eat from the Eitz HaDa'at, and this Eitz HaDa'at, from this pasuk about the Eitz HaDa'at, Hamin ha'etz, we find the hint to Haman. How does he fit into the story of the Gan Eden and Eitz HaDa'at? Furthermore, Mordechai, what is his hint in the Torah? Hint is Mordoror. Mordoror is one of the ingredients. The mor is the myrrh.
Myrrh.
Yeah, what is about the myrrh?
From the Ketoret.
From the Ketoret.
Yes.
Mordechai from the Ketoret. And how about Esther? Esther is Aster Panai Mikem. That's hidden. It's a very concealed story. The concealment of Hashem's presence. We don't find Hashem's name in the Megillah at all.
Right.
Not even one time. But Esther also has another name. What's her other name? Hadassah? Mm-hmm. And how about Hadassim? What do we know about Hadassim? What is a characteristic of Hadassim? Beautiful smell. It's brought in the sources that it is highly recommended to use Hadassim by Havdalah.
Mm-hmm.
My family, we don't make the bracha on Besamim and Havdalah. That's the minhag of my husband's family. But it's a very good practice, Hadassim. So the Ketoret, how does that fit in? How does that fit into the whole picture? Like, they smell nice. They smell nice, they're tzaddikim. But is there a deeper meaning here, a deeper connection?
The purification.
The Ketoret is a very big avoda.
Mm-hmm.
You said that was how you started. And that's amazing because it's a very crucial key here, the Ketoret.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Any other questions? I think that's enough for now. Yeah. Okay. So Megillah, we're told, is Milashon Gilui. It's revelation.
Mm-hmm.
And we're going to try to see how that all works. So, right. So we'll start with, what was our first question? We'll leave the first question to the very end. And we're going to jump to the third question, which was about Gan Eden. What's a Gan Eden story have to do here with anything? Gan Eden. What was in Gan Eden? There were two trees. The Gan Eden story is something that happens in a different plane. It's before actual time in the world really started. Man was only created on the sixth day. And the time cycle of the world as we know it started then. Everything that happened before, also with those first 6 days, Sheshes Yemei Bereshit, that's a whole different dimension. And it's written in the Torah, even though we have no idea what it's actually talking about, to give us an understanding of what humanity's mission is all about. Gan Eden is a place where Hashem is revealed. Hashem walks in Gan Eden. And Hashem gives man two mitzvah. He has the two trees, the Eitz HaChaim and the Eitz HaDaat. And he's not supposed to partake of the Eitz HaDaat. He's supposed to connect directly to the Eitz HaChaim. What is the Eitz HaDaat? The Eitz HaDaat, it's very deep, but we're just going to give a very quick summary or culling a message from the Eitz HaDaat. Eitz HaDaat, let's call it that mindset where the person is aware of himself, the Eitz HaDaat,
Mm-hmm.
and it's a very subjective, existence. He sees everything from the standpoint of himself. He's in the mode of what we call survival. Everything around him is either a threat to his survival, and he has to eliminate it, or is an object for him to manipulate and use. He's cut off. He's just there. And I've just described to you Amalek, survival mode. Survival mode is bayom shetochabo mot tamut. It is a course that eventually leads to death. There's no continuity, there's no eternity in it. He's all about himself, and what actually happens is his whole mode of existence eventually boomerangs. And he causes his own demise. Isn't it interesting that if we take this to the extreme, we can see that the horrible, terrible, extreme dictators, horrific dictators in the history of the world, many times commit suicide. They're so much on their track, they can't back down. They commit suicide because they have to get themselves out of the way because they have nothing to say for themselves. The Eitz HaChaim is where we're supposed to be. The Eitz HaChaim is connected, rooted above, understanding that Hashem created man b'tzalmo b'tzelem Elokim. We're here to be in partnership with Hashem. Everything is about cooperation with the world. Everything is about sharing. Everything is about me being a vessel to bring godliness into the world. We see this whole scenario of the two trees play out again in Sefer Bereshit. Two brothers,
Abel and Cain.
I'm jumping to Yaakov and
Yaakov and
Esav.
Esav.
Esav was supposed to be the Bechor.
Mhm.
He's supposed to be the one that's serving Hashem,
Mm.
and everything around him he's supposed to be elevating. But that's too much for him. He doesn't want a life where he has to answer. He wants to be on his own. It's too much for him. So when Yaakov sees that he's off the derech, he offers that he will, when he comes in and he says he wants to eat, so he says that he should sell him the Bechorah. Vayivez. He makes fun of it. He says, what do I need for the Bechorah? Anochi holech lamot. He says, I'm starving hungry. I'm dying from hunger. Just give me to eat. And he makes fun and he makes a joke of the Bechorah. Right. Okay. But that doesn't stay like that. We're going to see throughout the ages, this keeps on popping up. Amalek is a descendant of Esav. They didn't just leave it like that and say, well, I sold it. It was too much for me. It wasn't for me. And good for Yaakov. He wants to live up to it. That's very nice for him. And to live and let live. No. What is his feeling towards Yaakov?
Anger, jealousy.
Anger, jealousy. He can't forgive him for taking it away from him. But he didn't want it in the first place. He can't forgive him, and he's always out to get him for it. The jealousy, the anti-Semitism, never goes away until Achrei Hayamim. It's always there because they never can forgive the Jews for choosing the Bechorah, for choosing out of their own will to be the ones that partner with Hashem and teach the world, to share, to cooperate. Right. So if we look for causes and to solve anti-Semitism, it's not something that it's not rational. When Esav he say to him, this was your decision. Nobody forced you. You said yourself that you couldn't care. You're dying from hunger, and you couldn't care less. So why are you trying to hunt down Yaakov for what he did? It was with your agreement. Yeah. Okay. So that will go back to the Gan Eden. It's very interesting when Chava, when she describes what she did, when the pasuk describes what she did, there's a lot of different verbs used there. That she saw and she tasted and she took. She used all of her senses except for the nose, which is the sense of smell.
Which is the last one we lose.
Which, isn't it interesting that the sense of smell was unharmed by the sin of the Eitz Hadat. Isn't it interesting that we said about revival when somebody passes out, chas v'shalom, how do you revive? Smelling salts. Yeah. I've read a lot of fascinating things. Did I tell you this last week? That they mapped out the chromosomes, the genome of the human, and they found a very, very large portion of the human chromosomes are dedicated to the sense of smell. Yeah. Other things that a sense of smell is very. Do you know that that animals are able to smell when chas v'shalom a person isn't well?
Or faint or something.
Or even they have
a seizure.
Rahman al-Tan, a person that's not well with cancer.
Yeah.
I've read accounts of dogs can smell it out. Smell is something very, very powerful about smell. And isn't it interesting that the heroes of the Purim story are part of the Ketoret? The Ketoret was used by Moshe Rabbeinu and Aaron when they had to, after Korach, when there was a Magefa, and they wanted to revive, to stop the Magefa, so Aaron took the Ketoret. So, and it divided between those that died, those the dead ones and the living ones. The Eitz HaChaim, when we connect to Hashem, we are connected to the source of life. Because Hashem and the Jews and the Torah is one. And the Eitz HaChaim is the Torah. Okay. So, then we said, we have the question of why the Jewish people, why were the Jewish people deserving of this whole frightening decree of annihilation of the whole Jewish nation? What was their sin? What did they do that was so bad? We're told that they enjoyed the Seudah of Achashverosh. And you're going to ask me, they enjoyed the Seudah of Achashverosh. Achashverosh, Kirson Ish Va'ish, it was kosher. He provided Badat's food for whoever wanted. He gave the food according to what everybody wanted. What was so terrible that they enjoyed the king's feast and they brought upon themselves a decree of annihilation? But this was not just any party that Achashverosh had thrown. Achashverosh had a history. He had taken over, he had taken over the Malchut Bavel. Persia takes over and is the next world power after the Babylonian Empire fell. The Babylonians were the ones that destroyed the Beis HaMikdash, Nebuchadnezzar. Vashti was the daughter of Nebuchadnezzar. Achashverosh married Vashti, and that way he established that his kingdom was all the more stable and respected. But when did he make this party? He made this party, we're told. We're told that he wore, what he wore to the party? I think we mentioned it last week.
Yes.
Yeah.
The garment of the Kohen.
The priestly garments.
Mm-hmm.
What, he didn't have any other fancy dress to wear? I mean, they were very beautiful. But why did he choose to put on the priestly garments? And not only that, if you look at all the different materials that he displayed, they are very reminiscent of the materials that we see in the Mishkan, in the Beis HaMikdash. Tchelet, Karpas, Hargaman, all these different things. And what about the dishes? We know that when we listen to the Megillah's reading, we hear it has a certain tune. But then when it comes to the following words, the tune changes. V'chelim mikelim shonim. They change it from the regular tune of the Megillah to the tune of Megillat Eicha. Mikelim, mikelim shonim. And everybody gets a little bit sad when they hear that. It touches off Tisha B'Av. What's a connection? Why did he display the vessels of the Beis HaMikdash? Why did he wear the big day kahuna? Why does he show all these materials? Tchelet, argaman, kesef, amudei sheish, all of these are ingredients from the Mishkan and from the Beis HaMikdash. Well, there was a misconception that was going on at that time, because the prophet had said that the Churban Beis HaMikdash, we would go to Golut, Bavel, for how many years? The exile to Babylon was a 70-year exile. The problem was that no one was exactly sure when those 70 years started. They assumed, because there were two parallel 70 years, those 70 years that was going to be for the exile, there was also 70 years to the Babylonian rule of Babylon. And that would mean starting when Nebuchadnezzar rose to power. he rose to power before the Churban. He rose to power 12 years, and there was a miscalculation. And people, the widespread opinion was the 70 years were over. And instead of the Jewish people returning to their land and building the Beit HaMikdash, there's another power that arises. And this is Persia. And he is so pleased. He's so pleased that he felt that he defeated the Jewish kingdom and chas v'shalom, that he defeated God. The Jews were a nice, glorious nation, but they fell. They are no longer. It's him now. And when the non-Jews, when they go and they rise to power, they want to make an alternate Yerushalayim. What's his alternate Yerushalayim? Shushan Habira. And who is the high priest? Achashverosh himself. He is the grand ruler of the world. And that's what his party was all about.
And why did he dress like the Kohen?
Because the Kohen was the most holy. He's the most holy, great. He's the greatest person in the nation, spiritually. Well, Achashverosh is the greatest person in the Persian Empire, and he's and that translates as the ruler and most important person in the world, the grandest person in the world. So he puts on the Bigdei Kahuna.
That's the why do we dress up like what
Maybe.
we are not?
Maybe.
He was not.
Maybe, but we'll see there's even more connection to the dressing up. So 1 second. So we have Achashverosh. Now even if it's Mahadrin kosher badatz food, do the Jewish people belong in such a feast? How terrible! Not just that what are they actually saying? They're saying, well, maybe it's true. Maybe Hashem left us.
We gave up.
Hashem, they despaired. We're no longer the chosen nation. We no longer, look, we don't have a country. We don't have the Beis HaMikdash. And there was further reason for them to maybe have this idea, this mistaken idea in their mind that Hashem already left them. Because this point in history is a new stage. It is a whole new stage. As a matter of fact, Megillas Esther is the last one of all the holy books. 24 books. This is the last one. Something is happening. There's going to be a shift. What is the shift? The shift goes from something that we call Nevuah, Torah Shebechsav. When you open Megillas was the story, and you would go into a Jewish home, what would be on their bookshelves? There's no Gemara. There's no Mishnah. There's the Torah, like the Sefer Torah. And some of the books, most of the books, because Megillas Esther was only included when Esther and Mordechai convinced them to include it, and they weren't sure that they agreed to it at first. What's the difference between the Tkufa, the era of Torah Shebechtav, and then Torah Sheba'al Peh, the era of the written law and the oral law? We know we got both of them at Har Sinai. Torah Shebechtav is given b'nevuah, prophecy. All through Bayit Rishon, the first temple, they had prophecy. There were prophets all the way until Esther's time. Even to the beginning of Bayit Sheni, there were still prophets. They needed to have prophets in order to confirm for them the exact location of the altar of the first Beit HaMikdash. Otherwise, they could never have built the second Beit HaMikdash. There had to be a Navi there and tell them, even if they saw a broken altar, they had to know the exact precise spot of the altar so they could rebuild the Beit HaMikdash. So we still have a little bit more, but it's basically a cutoff. And what replaces Nevuah? What is the whole essence? How do we connect to Hashem? The replacement is Torah Shebe'al Peh, which is not Nevuah coming down from heaven. Torah Shebe'al Peh, what do we use for Torah Shebe'al Peh? To learn Gemara, to understand Gemara, what do we use there?
Shulchan Aruch.
We use our minds.
Oh.
There's 13, it's called the different ways of that Torah is understood, meaning the Chazal, they understand all the different mitzvot, all the different details of the mitzvot, everything they do, they understand by opening the Torah and very closely examining and applying all kinds of logical rules to understand how everything is derived from the Torah Shebechsav, and that's called Torah Shebe'al Peh. That's an ongoing exercise. It starts when it started all the way in the beginning. It's an ongoing, and that uses the mind. And what's the difference between Nevuah and Chachma? Nevuah comes down from heaven. You have a question, you get the answer.
And
You get the
within.
right. You have the question. You can go to the Beit HaMikdash. You can ask the Urim Betumim. The Choshen would light up with the answers. The Nevi'im would receive Nevuah. We don't have Nevuah today. Nevuah is not existing until it will be reinstated when Mashiach comes. That's very different from all the religions in the world. They say they have this Navi and this prophet, and this prophet comes and no, Hashem ceased to appear that way to the world in prophecy at this time. And there is a beginning of the development of Torah Shebe'al Peh, which is Chachma, which is not from above, below. This comes from below. And that's a little bit scary. Scary for the Jewish people. How will they manage? It's like a child. A child is breastfed, is held by the parent. And then comes a stage when the parent says, it's time for you to stand on your 2 feet and implement everything that you were able to gain from this period of closeness. In order for the Jewish people to achieve adulthood, it's necessary for this shift to happen. And it was happening at this time. Megillas Esther, we're told she's the last of the Nisim. No more Nisim, like Kriyas Yamsuf and all the. Even in Bayit Sheni, they didn't have the same kind of Nisim that they had. What's a miracle? A miracle is Hashem open. Hello. Do we have that today? As Hashem says, here I am.
We do.
We have it, but it's in a concealed way. For those that want to say, no, I don't believe it, there's a Pitchon Peh. Prove it to me. Can we prove faith? We can't prove faith today. We can say we believe because we believe. And we have enough reason to believe. But the ultimate question, you look at the world, it's, are you ready to believe? Take a leap of faith or not? And that's frightening for the Jewish people. They have to grow up. And they're scared. And so they sort of slack off. And they go to participate. That's the deeper meaning of the participation of the Jewish people. Shenehenu, they had pleasure in the feast of Achashverosh, who was celebrating what he thought was the defeat of the Jewish people.
Now the Jews were supposed to be all killed. Why is he inviting them to the party? How is that?
That happens later. That happens with Haman. When Mordechai doesn't bow down to him, and he's filled with resentment. And he takes it out not only on Mordechai, but on all the Jewish people. And isn't it interesting that the word that is used to describe his emotions is the same word that is used to describe his forefather,
Abraham.
Esav.
Oh.
Esav. Remember when Esav was filled with resentment and hatred?
For
Haman.
Haman's
Haman.
father.
Haman, why was there a decree to kill out the Jews? Haman. It says that he made a decree that whenever he appears in public, everyone bows down. Mordechai, no.
Refused.
He refused. And his reaction was, Vayivez be'einav lishloach yad b'Mordechai levado. And he mocked, he belittled the idea just to punish Mordechai for not listening. And therefore he decides to go and ask if he can annihilate the entire Jewish nation.
And what is the word you say?
Vayivez.
Vayivez?
Vayivez, which means baza. Vayivez is he mocked, he derided.
Okay.
But that's the exact same word that is used to describe Esau. Vayivez.
With Yaakov.
Yes, Vayivez at Habachorah, that he derided when he said to him, well, you want to eat, so give me because Yaakov saw what a lowlife he was, and that he was not the one that was worthy of representing Hashem and bringing Hashem's priest in the world, and bringing Hashem's firstborn. So he proposed the sale, and it says that he ate and he drank, and that was the day that Avraham Avinu died. And why did Avraham Avinu die earlier than he was supposed to? To spare Avraham Avinu to see his grandson go off the derech. On that day, when Avraham Avinu died and they were sitting in mourning, Esau did all the 3 cardinal sins. And he made fun, he mocked the Bechorah, the birthright. And it shows up again now in his descendant Haman, the Yivez.
So what was the 3 sins that he did?
That he murdered. He committed incest with a betrothed girl and avodah zarah. We know that every time it says in the Megillah, Melech, it doesn't say Hashem's name. But when it's talking about Hamelech, it's a hint to Hashem. Meaning that it seems like Esther and Mordechai, Esther is relating to the king, Achashverosh. She's really focused on her relationship with Hashem, on her request from Hashem, on her beseeching Hashem. So where are we up to? So where do we see that the Jewish people had despaired? Because when Haman comes to present his proposal of an annihilation of the Jewish people, what does he say? He comes to the king and he says, Yeshno Am Echad. Yeshno Am Echad. There is a nation that is different from all the other nations, and they keep their rules, and you don't want that because you want to have a world power here, so you need everyone the same. Yeshno, the Medrash says, Milashon Lishon. These Jewish people are slumbering. They have forgotten what their job is, what their mission is in this world. So, if Yeshna Am, so we have to ask, what is the truth? Has Hashem ever forgotten the Jewish people and abandoned them? Hashem never abandons the Jewish people. Hashem says, Ki lo yitosh Hashem amo, hine lo yanum v'lo yishan. Hashem never goes to sleep. And we're told in Sefer Devarim that as far away as we can wander from Hashem, Hashem will bring everyone back. Ki lo yidach mimenu nidach. Hashem will bring from the furthest corners, also geographically and also emotionally. As far as the Jews have strayed, Hashem promises that He will bring us back. So Hashem never leaves the Jewish people. We just need to have a little bit of reminder, and that's Amalek's reminder, comes to remind us what our mission is, and that Hashem's connected to us. Whenever we slack off, so we get a reminder. The original Amalek came to attack the Jewish people, B'Refidim. Refidim, we're told, means when they were, because we know they were in Refidim, and it's written in a redundant, it seemed in a seemingly redundant way that he came to attack them in Refidim. We just heard that they were in Refidim in Sefer Shemos. So Refidim, Rashi says, means that they rafu, their hands were weakened in the Torah. Whenever Amalek is like a fly that smells out the open wounds. He comes and he sits there in the place that needs to be healed. So just like the Jewish people, they weakened themselves on the way out of Mitzrayim, and then Amalek showed up. So now also, the Jewish people were despairing. They thought maybe Hashem already abandoned them and they no longer have to be a unique nation with a unique mission. Comes in Amalek to remind us what our mission is in this world. And Hashem's there all the time. Lo yanum v'lo yishan. And when does the whole story turn about? Balayla hahu nadada shnat hamelach. It says about Achashverosh that he couldn't fall asleep. But we know that Hamelech is Hashem. It's Hashem who's not sleeping, even in this time with this terrible decree hovering over the Jewish nation. Hashem doesn't fall asleep. Hashem is lo yanum v'lo yishan. Okay. So where are we up to with our questions? Oh, wow. Time went by. So where are we up to with our questions? So, what do we find? We find that the Jewish people do tshuva, and kimu v'kiblu alehem. They accept upon themselves to keep them PURIM, to what Mordechai and Esther said, to do tshuva. They do tshuva, and they fast according as Esther told them to fast. And then we find that very quickly, very, very quickly, things turn around. We think maybe, I don't know, that the story is a long drawn out story, but the actual fall of Haman happened with the speed of lightning. When did he come to propose that the annihilation of the Jews? That was in Chodesh Nisan. He comes on the 13th day of Nisan. Mordechai immediately finds out about it. He goes and he tells Esther. Esther's answer is, let's fast for 3 days. I'll fast, and everyone in the Jewish nation should fast. The day before Pesach, which is Yudaleh, they fast. Tetvav, they fast. Tetzayin, they fast. She makes the banquet. He comes, and within a very short time, the tree that he built, the gallows that he built for Mordechai, like within a day or two, he's already up on top. Because with his mindset, everything that we said, the Eitz Hadat, Tovara, a person on their own, survival of the fittest, that just eventually boomerangs. We see this with celebrities that have great, great fame, and they're not connected in a spiritual way. A lot of them go to different, very destructive behaviors. And a lot of them, child actors, they die of overdose. To understand that the way of keeping the Torah. So it says kimu v'kiblu, and not only it says that they kimu v'kiblu, Kiblu is Kabbalat Torah. They accepted upon themselves the Torah. One second. They accepted the Torah. We accepted the Torah at Sinai. And maybe now we can understand what makes Purim so great. Kimu v'kiblu, they re-accepted the Torah. The question is, we accepted the Torah. We said Na'aseh v'nishma. What was the chidush of the acceptance of the Torah in the time of Purim? Listen carefully. In the time when Hashem gave the Torah to Moshe at Har Sinai, Na'aseh v'nishma was said on the Torah Shebichtav. Torah Sheba'al Peh, that's a real hard deal. That's an ongoing exertion. They weren't so sure about that. That's an open-ended question. Hashem wanted them to take the Torah, and it says, that Hashem, they were sitting mamash underneath the mountain, and Hashem took the mountain, and he, as if to say, hung it on top of them, and said, accept the Torah. If you don't, this mountain is going to fall on top of you. So they accepted the Torah Sheba'al Peh at the time of Sinai, not from complete free will. It was something they did sort of coerced. And the commentators explain, it doesn't mean that it actually there was a mountain sitting on top of their heads, but the great show of Har Sinai was so great, so overwhelming, that there was an element there that was it completely of their volition, their own volition? Was it completely their free choice? Or maybe the great things that they saw. We spoke about Nisim. When there's a miracle, there was once a story about in a shtetl where there was something really, really, really amazing going on, a nes, and they were calling everyone to see. And the kofrim, the apikursim, they said, no, they don't want to go see. Why didn't they want to go see?
They don't want to see Hashem.
They don't want to see. They don't want to see open manifestations. They like their lifestyle. So a miracle is great, and it has a profound impact. But does it reach all the way into all the crevices of the person? And what is the person if not their free will? That's a Tselem Elokim that Hashem gives us to be partner with Him in creation, in the ongoing creation in the world. Was that the level at Har Sinai? That's a question. And the whole time we said, the whole era of Beit Rishon was still under this impact of Har Sinai. But when we go to Galus and things are changing, we're shifting over to a different kind of connection to Hashem. Not the Torah Shebechtav, and Nisim Galuyim, and Nevuah, but the Torah Sheba'al Peh, which is the maturation of the Jewish people, of coming forward with their bechira, with their understanding, their own independent understanding. And yes, that's scary, because it gives a person much more. It's scary for a child to leave their parents' home. They have to take responsibility, full responsibility for themselves. The Jewish people were hesitating. They were despairing. But the Chachma, Hashem says, I'm there with you. You exert yourself. You express yourself. You express yourself that I gave you, and your faculties. We said that's a connection to Hashem. It's like the Kruvim, a person using their mind. They can reach very great heights of understanding of Hashem's will. So kimu v'kiblu, it's a different kind. It's a different kind of connection to Hashem. Maybe that's what it means when it says Yom Kippur, that's a great day. But there is an even deeper way to connect to Hashem that has to do with the person in total creative mode, not fearing because they saw this great miracle and they fear. the creator. This is the Ahava.
Ahava.
Yeah. Now, very interesting, we left a question. We left the question about the masquerades. Do you know that, which parsha did we read this past week about the priestly garments? And we have this very, very clear indication in the Megillah that it's not just priestly garments that you wear. Achashverosh wore them. So what? He's the lowest lowlife from the history, right? But we said it's this deeper. We spoke about the Big Day Kahuna, the Big Day Kahuna being the very lofty character traits. We're talking about lofty character traits. We're going back to a very yeah. Listen, we spoke about Gan Eden. When they left Gan Eden, it says that Hashem made for them garments of or with an ayin.
Oh.
Garments or with an ayin. Or with an ayin is skin. Okay. But we're told that in the Sefer Torah of Rabbi Meir, it didn't say or with an ayin, it said or with an aleph. Adam HaRishon, when he was in Gan Eden, they didn't have clothes. They didn't have clothes? What does that mean? He didn't need clothes because he was so connected to Hashem there that he shone, and he was wearing bigdei or with an aleph. He was illuminating the light of the Shekhinah. And when he falls and he goes out of Gan Eden, he's given bigdei or. Rabbi Meir was on a very high level. He saw the very great capacity that man has to rise. And so even though if you would write a Sefer Torah with an aleph, you would write that the garments of or with an aleph, that Sefer Torah would be puzzle. Because you can't change the Torah. But Rabbi Meir didn't even see the ayin of garments of skin, that he made them leather garments. He saw the or because that's the potential of man. So we said the Bigdei Kahuna, he was like a Kohen Gadol when he was in Gan Eden, and he wore these garments of light. Another parsha that we're always reading in the time of Purim, like this year, is Ki Tisa. That's going to be the parsha this week. And guess what? We find a mask in the parsha. What is the mask? Moshe, the story of the Egel. Moshe brings down the Luchot. The Luchot were so great. They had the radiance of the Shekhinah. What does he do when he comes down and he sees the Chet HaEgel? He breaks the Luchot. And then he achieves Kapara. And then Hashem tells him he's going to go back up. Another twice 40 days. And when he comes down with a second set of Luchot. But there is a difference between the first set of Luchot and the second set of Luchot. They're not the same. The first set of Luchot we spoke about, Torah Shebachtav. Everything was written on these Luchot. Everything that will ever be said about Torah was written in a miraculous way on these Luchot. When Moshe Rabbeinu broke the Luchot, all the letters flew away. And he goes and he gets a second set of Luchot after another 40 days and another 40 days. And then Yom Kippur, Hashem says, Salachti Kidvarecha. He comes down with the second. And what was the difference? Listen what it says. What did Moshe, first I'll read the pasuk. Vayhi beredet Moshe mehar Sinai ushne luchot ha'edut biyad Moshe beredeto min ha'ar. He comes down from the mountain. Moshe lo yada ki karan or panav b'dabro ito. He didn't know that his face was shining. Vayar Aaron v'chol b'nei Yisrael et Moshe v'hinei karan or panav. They saw his radiant face, his illumined. Vayir'u migeshet elav. They were frightened. So what did he do? Vayitain al panav masazeh. A mask. Why did he put on a mask? Why was his face shining? It doesn't say the luchot shniyot. It doesn't say that they were shining. What was shining was Moshe. We said the Torah Sheba'al Peh and Torah Shebechtav by the first time around were all one. There was no need to make a separation there. Am Yisrael were still, before they made the Egel, they were in a different place. They went back to the level of Gan Eden. There was no separation. They were connected directly to Hashem. But after the Cheda Egel, it becomes necessary a whole different mode. No Torah Sheba'al Peh and everything written down on the Luchot. Now it is required of Am Yisrael to exert themselves, their minds and their person, to exert themselves to become part of the Torah. Moshe Rabbeinu goes up to heaven for 40 days and then another 40 days. And he goes through the entire Torah. He uses his mind and he achieves the maximum capacity of the human mind to understand the Torah, as far as a human mind can go. So what was before? Before, everything was on the Luchot. It's like a Sefer Torah. It has Kedusha, but it has a cover on it. Does the cover have the Kedusha of the Sefer Torah? It's not the same. If the cover falls down on the floor, Seder, you pick it up, you give it a kiss. If the Sefer Torah falls on the floor, that's terrible. One has to fast. So the Kedusha is in the Torah. It's on the parchment. What is a parchment made out of? Skin. Everything is there, right? That's how it was in the first time. But it flew away. There has to be a disconnection to reconnect. And Moshe Rabbeinu reconnects. But where does he reconnect? He reconnects with his person, with his brain, with his mind, with his whole person. So now, what is a Sefer Torah? What is a person? Is a person just holding the Sefer Torah and then they put it away? The person that learns the Torah, he becomes the living Sefer Torah. So now it's not just the Torah that was shining with the Shekhinah, it is the face of Moshe. And he has to cover it because it is so brilliant. So why does he have to cover? What is shining from his face? The Torah Sheba'al Peh, that he has reclaimed through his efforts. And now we go back to the story of Purim, when it's the end of the miracles, but it's the start of a new era that's going to bring us all the way to Mashiach. And we're told that everything will fall away. Megillat Esther will stand forever. And the holiness of Megillat Esther is very high, because here Hashem isn't revealing himself through his name Yud Kei Vav Kei, but he's there all the whole time. And the way that we are revealing Hashem, Megillah, revelation, is through our work that we do, our study of Torah that we do, our mitzvot and masim tovim and midot tovot. Those are the ketonot of or. When a person incorporates the Torah in this way to himself, he transforms the or, the skin, into the or of the Shekhinah. Yeah. And the Nahav Bochu, everything turns around. There's a turnabout that's instant. Hashem is ready just to throw everything. And isn't it interesting, and I forgot to ask this at the beginning, the last psukim of the Haftorah, of the Megillah, it says that, one second, it says, and you would think this is like anticlimactic, like it says, we read the last parak, and Achashverosh, everybody's keeping in the ninth parak. Everybody they write the Purim and it's accepted and everybody's keeping it, and then suddenly Vayasem Melech HaMelech Achashverosh Mas al Haaretz V'al Iyei Hayam. He put a tax on his whole empire. Like, what could we care less about the tax on the empire? But the tax on the empire, we said everything turns about. Haman was out to do away with the Jews. Achashverosh is the new high priest, the king of the world, new world order. This tax was actually used for a very special purpose. And what about Esther? And I'm going to say it in a minute. What about Esther? Achashverosh made the party in order to celebrate the destruction of the Beis HaMikdash. And he does away with Vashti, who was the daughter of Nebuchadnezzar, who was very into stopping the Beis HaMikdash from being rebuilt. And that's the reason, and Haman was all for the doing away of Vashti, and then Esther rises to power, and Esther is the one that is the mother of, do you know her son? Her son's name is Daryavesh. And Daryavesh had another name, Koresh. And he is the one responsible for the building of the second Beit HaMikdash. And guess who funded the Beit HaMikdash?
That tax.
That tax. And it is the Divine Comedy. How everything, Hashem is there all along, and those that want to annihilate the Jewish people, Hashem sits in Shamayim and he laughs, and everything is turned about for the Geula.
Beautiful.